Having a technical understanding is key for effective project management. It doesn't need to be highly detailed or thorough, but having some technical understanding will allow you to make decisions in an informed manner and lead the entire project team. Your level of technical understanding will never need to be as thorough and detailed as the dev team, for example, but being able to provide the necessary input and understand the different pieces of the project and what different teams are working on is key. There are a few things you can do to upskill yourself here. This includes 1. Staying up to date with the latest trends, changes, and developments is really helpful. This also helps you to make sure that you are using the right tools for the job and that you have the right people with the right skills doing the right things. 2. To ensure that your technical understanding is applicable, it's important to make sure that it's specific to your organization and industry. It doesn't make sense to have a detailed technical knowledge about a certain backend or program if it isn't the one that your organization uses. This is applicable to the type of industry you're into. For example, often different industries have specific technical aspects that are very specific to that industry, so you need to be familiar with whatever is applicable. 3. Having a level of technical understanding is key because it will lead to an increase in the productivity and output of your team. It gives you the basis to make more informed decisions, which in turn helps the project team to move in the right direction. And it allows you to remove roadblocks throughout the project, not just in the non-technical areas. In order to develop your technical understanding, you need to identify what you don't know. Knowing and then recognizing your limits is key. Once you know this, you can then identify sources of information to upskill and train yourself. It's important to only learn as much as is practically important. No one expects you to be an expert in all fields. You just need to be able to speak intelligently about the technical aspects of your project, make informed decisions, and be able to generate buy-in. It's not practical to spend all of your time training rather than actually managing the project. And always remember that I don't know is an acceptable answer. Guessing the answer can put your project at risk and can damage your reputation. So know your limits, and when you don't know the answer, say that you don't know it. An important caveat to this is that you should only answer "I don't know" to the same question once. If you have been asked that question once, you need to go and find out the necessary information and upskill yourself. This also improves team morale because it shows that you're willing to learn and grow. One of the key things to keep in mind here is that even if you have a high technical understanding, never tell your team how to perform a technical task. Your responsibility is to set, prioritize, and manage tasks in order to tell your team what needs to be achieved. But they are the technical experts. They should know how to do what needs to be done. Having the skills to successfully manage and work with people is so important within the project management space. This is because as a project manager, you're going to be working with a lot of people and teams, most of who don't directly report into you. This is a very different dynamic compared to if they did report into you. Having a direct report may make it easier to guide and direct their work, but working with and influencing people who do not directly report into you can be a lot harder. You have to use your skills of influence, negotiation, and communication. In this section, we'll touch on leadership skills, relationship management, and interpersonal skills, self-awareness, and collaborative communication. Oh, I see some, just before we jump in, I see some questions coming in. I see a question just here about core KPIs. So these KPIs we'll actually be touching on it a little bit later in the course. So keep an eye out for it. If it doesn't answer your question fully, please just let me know. Possibly add me on LinkedIn and I can answer your more specific questions, but it is coming later on in the course. I see a question here. How do you provide a project management structure to a business initiative that is started and is struggling? That is a very hard question, and it's also almost part of a whole entire new course. Again, I think it's probably better to discuss this outside of the course. If you're comfortable with that, please feel free again to add me on LinkedIn, and very happy to chat about it there. Okay, cool. Okay, so firstly is looking at leadership skills. So research shows that leadership directly influences employees, and often people in leadership positions aren't even aware of just how big of an impact they actually have. Being a strong leader is key for successful project management. If the teams within a project do not respect you as a leader, then they will be a lot less willing to follow your directions and less likely to do everything it takes to meet the outcomes within the timelines. It can definitely make running a project more of a headache if you don't have the respect of the various teams involved. Leadership relates to the management of people and tasks throughout the process. Whether it's strong leadership or poor leadership, it has a direct impact on the teams involved and therefore ultimately on the project. Your leadership role within the project management space is to guide and motivate the various teams to achieve the project goals and meet the deliverables. Being a good and successful leader relies on a combination of skills and behaviors. Research has shown that there are a few skills and behaviors that are key to being a successful leader. These include 1. Authentic and honest approach. Trust is key within leadership. The project teams and people around us need to trust us in order to follow our lead. So it's key that leaders are authentic and honest because it drives trust. Key to note here is that while authenticity and honesty are key, we must also keep in mind that this must be done with kindness. For example, if you're giving feedback or constructive criticism, it needs to be honest and authentic, but it also needs to be conveyed with kindness. A harsh honesty and authenticity won't generate trust, but may actually do the opposite. 2. Consistency. This links back to trust again. Being a consistent person and leader means that the teams can always trust that what you are doing and the decisions that you make are authentic, rational, and fair, and in turn that you will treat them with fairness and consistency. This also links to the fact that you'll do what you say and follow through on things. This also generates trust. 3 is competency. It's fair to say that it's very difficult to trust, follow, or support someone who you think is incompetent. So being a competent leader is key in ensuring that the various teams believe in you and support your decisions. If they think you're competent to lead teams and make decisions, they're more likely to align with your thinking and follow your approach. 4. Having a vision and inspiring those around you. As many of the teams within the project will not report directly into you, inspiring the people in those teams is a key way in getting them to do what you're asking them to do and follow your approach. By having a clear vision and inspiring the teams, you can more easily align the teams and work towards a common goal. 5. Good, regular, transparent communication. This ensures that everyone is on your page and is moving in the same direction. It also makes sure that everyone you're working with is fully aware of what they should be doing and are constantly informed of changes, etc. This again increases trust. 6 is accountability. Accountability is key within a healthy team working environment. Being an accountable leader is key because it inspires this accountability within the team and creates a good, open culture within the project management team. This is particularly important within iterative projects, where each member is fully responsible for what they're working on, In this environment, accountability is absolutely key. 7 is be respectful. This may be the most important element. Each team member has something to contribute and value to add, and it must be recognized that the whole is greater than each of the parts. It also inspires a good team culture and a good working environment. 8, bringing people together. Getting everyone on the same page and inspiring everyone in the same direction is really important for a successful project. Generating the support and teamwork is really important and hugely shaped by leadership. And 9, a really important leadership skill is being a good problem solver, which is what somebody mentioned early on in the course. This is key to keeping the project moving forward, overcoming issues, and helping to move the team and project forward. We'll touch on this in a bit more detail later on. Just before we move on, I see that there's a question here. What are the keys to get stakeholders to give you enough time to do a good job? What are the reasons why they want to pressure you to finish something that is unfinished just to say you finished it? That is a very good question, and I think that's definitely something most project managers really struggle with, in that everything is wanted and it's wanted perfectly and it's wanted now. But they're often kind of toss-ups. Either you can spend more money on it to get it within a certain amount of time because you can get more resources, or you need more time to be able to do a good job. So I think it's largely dependent on, unfortunately, the business and the managers. And I think something that can help the most, but it may not be always possible, is just a high level of communication right from the beginning, being open and honest about where everything is, the time that's required, and then also something that's really important within the project management space, and we'll touch on it a little bit later, is being able to say no, because this actually benefits the project. But whether people are actually willing to listen to that is a whole other story. So that's definitely always a tough job, and it really varies depending on the organization. I see a question here about what area you should be competent in. So the competency within being a good leader is more competency in that you can do your job, you can do it successfully, you make the right decisions, you people trust in you. So it's really kind of all-encompassing. There are various different things that make people feel that you're competent. But the main one is just that you're actually good at what you do, and you put in the work and you put in the effort, and you do what you say you're going to do. So it is a bit of a tough one to kind of develop. But I mean, the fact that you're doing additional training outside of your core job, it shows that you're willing to grow and learn into that space. So it's almost a skill you need to develop and grow, but being good at your job is definitely the key thing that makes you come across as a competent leader. Okay, so one of the key skills to being a good leader is being a good communicator, and key to being a good communicator is active listening. So this was definitely something that was touched on as people noticing when everybody was mentioning what their project management skills that they thought were important are. So active listening involves listening to understand, not just listening to respond. So we're just quickly going to do this exercise. It's a nice way to test your active listening skills. So I'm going to read through a list of 20 related words. Please don't write anything down yet. Just listen to the words that I'm saying. Okay, cool. So garden, blossom, grass, tree, hedge, rock, leaf, blossom, bush, butterfly, bird bath, branch, gardener, grass, hedge, vegetable garden, lawn, pond, hedge, grass. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to give you 1 minute. If you can please write down as many words as you can remember from the list that I've just read out to you. Okay, cool. So just write them on a piece of paper or something that you've got on hand. I'll give you 1 minute from now. See some comments coming in. Let's see. Okay, we've got another about 20 seconds to write down as many of the words as you can remember. See some people posting. Okay, I'll give you another 10 seconds. I'm impressed. I see a lot of these. See a lot of the right words coming through. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to skip to the next slide. So these are the words that I said. 100% I see somebody saying that I repeated a few words a few times. That is correct. I'm impressed. So now what I'd like you to do is to match your words that you wrote down to these words, which are the words I actually said. I see some words coming through here. Please specifically let me know if you have any words that you listed down which aren't actually on this list. So doing this exercise, evidence shows that about 60% of you probably remembered the first word that I said, which was, I'm just double checking, which was garden. Just based on the comments, it looks like that's pretty accurate. About 75% of you would have remembered the last word that I said, which was grass, which also looks about accurate. And then 80% would have remembered the words that I repeated 3 times, which also seems about accurate, just based on the comments that are coming through. And then apparently some of you also would have written down a word that is related to these words, but I didn't actually say. So if you did write down a word that I didn't actually say, that's not actually in this list here, please let me know. I'd just be interested to see what it was, if anything. Oh, flower, I see flower coming through. Not linked to memory, it was blossom. Okay, cool. Moa, lawn. Okay, cool. This is interesting. Okay, cool. I'll give you another kind of 30 seconds. If there is anything else that you wrote down that's not on this list, please let me know. Otherwise, we can move on. Spring best season. I like that. Also not on the list, but it's interesting. It just shows how the mind works. Just drawing an image in my head. Oh, that's awesome. That's a good way to do it. But it just shows that it's not just listening to listen, it's listening to kind of understand. So that's why you were drawing an image with the pictures, because you were actually listening to understand rather than just listen to the words. And it's why your brain comes up with other words that aren't necessarily listed, because you're listening to understand. So you look at the whole, you take in the whole picture rather than just the specific words. Okay, cool. Let's move on. So now looking at relationship management and interpersonal skills. So any project inherently has numerous teams, individuals, and stakeholders. Each of these needs to be managed. This is particularly the case in the fast-moving, constantly changing environment of iterative projects. Successful relationship management and interpersonal skills directly impact on the productivity of teams and individuals involved. Successful relationship management and interpersonal skills require regular communication, that is, to communicate regularly, to share information and feedback. Active listening, as we just touched on this exercise. This is directly linked to effective communication. It ensures that you not only hear the information that is being shared, but also that you take on the information and actually understand it. The stages of active listening are to listen to the information, to understand the information, to validate what you are understanding with the person who's giving you the information, and then to act on it. Empathy. Conducting yourself with empathy helps to build rapport with the people around you. This is also one of those skills that a few people touched on within the initial upfront skills, so that's very interesting. People who are empathetic are able to understand others' perspectives, emotions, and opinions. This allows you to work better with people from different cultures and backgrounds, builds an environment of respect, and can positively impact on the team culture as it establishes a common ground and makes a more enjoyable working environment. Just before we move on, I see there's a question here about how to improve active listening skills. So there are a few different ways you can do exercises such as the one we've just done. It really uses your brain kind of in a different way. And then it's also just through practicing and actually doing it in reality. So actively making a conscious effort to listen to what's being said, to take on the information, and then actively check back with the person who's giving you that information. So ask them if what you've understood is correct, and then take on that information and go with it, basically. Here's a question, does active listening change depending on the communication tool? If you could just clarify a little bit what you mean by communication tool. Typically, active listening is kind of broadly across anything, irrespective of the tool. It's a kind of a part of communication. I'm happy that helps. It's part of effective communication. So it should be done not only in the project management space, but actually any time that you're communicating with anybody. Actively listening really helps to ensure that that communication is done in a successful way, and not just that you're kind of sharing your perspective or sharing your side, but actually taking on the feedback that's given back to you. And this also helps with I'm very bad at multitasking. I just saw another comment come through and I've totally lost my train of thought. But yes, active listening is important, is my point. Probably offline, online. So that's a very good point. I guess active listening offline versus active listening online. So active listening online would be slightly different to offline, in that it wouldn't be what somebody was saying unless it's kind of over a VC or online conference or something like that. It could be via email. And in that case, it's very similar. Whatever information is shared by email, online, chats, whatever it is taking on that information, making sure you understand it, and checking in with the person who's sharing that information with you to make sure that you're understanding the right thing. So it's in different formats, offline and online, but it's a similar technique across the two. Okay, cool. So setting clear expectations. This makes sure that everyone is working in the same direction. It helps to maintain healthy working relationships when everyone is on the same page and understands what is required of each person. Praise and recognition. This is really important as it makes sure that everyone is involved in the project is more willing to contribute and possibly even go out of their way to help out. Research highlights the positive impact that this has on people's neurological and psychological state. It's really important for employee engagement and getting the most out of everyone working in the team. It helps everyone to feel valued and increases productivity. And getting involved, getting your hands dirty and taking responsibility. If the people you're working with see you getting involved, solving issues in a hands-on manner, and taking responsibility, it creates a really great culture of everyone within the team doing the same thing. It's awesome to have a project where everyone is willing to help and go out of their way to solve issues. Also, if you take responsibility for things, it creates a culture of people who do this too. It really is important that each team member also follows this approach and takes responsibility for what they're doing. and looking at self-awareness. Self-awareness is a primary factor in emotional intelligence. When faced with challenges, often emotions arise. If you aren't self-aware, you'll be more willing to act on your emotions reflexively. This can involve yelling, blaming, ranting, becoming more rigid, etc. How you behave impacts on how people perceive you. It directly affects the people around you and can impact on their performance. Being self-aware involves knowing and understanding your emotions, managing your emotions in a productive and constructive manner. And it has a big role in keeping you motivated and keeping the people around you motivated. I've just seen a comment come through here about that email it's a very good point, that email is, it's very hard to kind of tell people's perspective and tones of voice and lack those cues, which you would otherwise get in face-to-face communication. So it definitely means you miss a few things, but you can still approach it with the goal to kind of take on the information, understand it, and check in that you are actually understanding the right thing. Okay, so here are just some tips on how to become self-aware. Practice mindfulness. This involves consciously being aware of and tuning into your emotions, thoughts, feelings, and actions. Try to write down and track your plans and priorities. This involves writing down what you want to do and then tracking your progress. Having it written down will give you insights into why you did what you did or didn't achieve what you were hoping to, and then why. Another approach here can be to write down what you view your strengths and weaknesses as. This can help you to see how you are growing and how you are developing over time. Get regular feedback. This can be formal or informal and can be from work colleagues or from friends. This will give you different perspectives and insights into yourself and your behavior. You can reflect on it, consider it, and work on areas that you would like to. Another way to approach this is to get people who you trust to call you out or bring your attention to behavior that doesn't align with what you're hoping to portray. For example, if you're hoping to become less self-critical, you could get a trusted person to point out when you're being critical of yourself. This can help you to identify it in the future and possibly correct it. Self-reflection. You can either write down your own self-reflections so that you get it down on paper, or it can just be taking time out of your day to consciously self-reflect. This involves reflecting on your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, and your emotions, both positive and negative. And take psychometric tests. These are various different tests available online. They're both free and paid for. I suggest taking a few different ones as they each give you a different insight or perspective. It will give you an idea of various elements of yourself, why you may do certain things, how you react to certain things, your character, etc. I find that these tests can be particularly helpful to improve self-awareness. Okay, and then looking at collaborative communication. So collaborative communication is a key element in ensuring the success of a project. Just before I jump in, I've seen someone ask for me to share a few psychometric tests. Sure, there are a few that jump to mind. A few of my favorite ones include Myers-Briggs, which is awesome. If you just Google it, there are a few. I'm not sure if it's entirely free or there are other free versions of it, but they're all very similar, and it'll give you a profile there, and it'll tell you kind of why your personality is what it is, how it fits into your kind of life environment, your work environment, to making friends, why you think the way you do, why you act the way you do. It's a very interesting one. Another really nice one which I like is the Strength Finder, which based on your answers will give you your top 5 strengths, which is awesome. You can see I really like the ones that are kind of positive and show you the positive things of your personality. Yes, there we go, Myers-Briggs. Thank you for spelling it out. That's definitely a good one. So Myers-Briggs is good, and StrengthsFinder is really good. And there really are so many of them. So if those aren't the ones that kind of resonate with you, you can kind of search online and see if there's something else. But yes, I just see MBTI. Yeah, you can search for that, and it'll come up with the tests online. And there are definitely free versions. Okay, cool. I see a comment here. I need to stop myself from reacting by fighting. 100%. So a lot of the mindfulness work and being self-aware can help you with that, definitely. Okay, cool. So looking at collaborative communication. So collaborative communication is a key element in ensuring the success of a project. Regular, transparent, and clear communication ensures alignment and gets everyone on the same page and moving in the same direction. This is applicable to communication within and between teams, individuals, customers, and stakeholders. It involves clearly communicating objectives, what is expected from who, and the separation of work. And it is essential to ensure efficiency within and between cross-functional and multidisciplinary teams. Collaborative communication can happen in various ways. This includes face-to-face, email, text, calls, etc. To make sure it's successful, it should be done in a clear and thoughtful manner. It needs to be ongoing to make sure everyone has the information that they need, that they aren't left out of the loop, and that they are aware of any changes. A key element of a collaborative communication is active listening, which is what we've touched on a few times, so you can see it's a trend coming through everything. It's based on the idea, again, that we should be listening to understand, not to just hear what is being communicated to us. Be open-minded in your approach. This allows you not to just communicate, but to communicate in a collaborative way and actually actively take in what is being said. If you have a closed-minded approach, it's very possible that you may not actually hear or understand what is being said. This can be a big disadvantage and may impact on the level of trust and respect that people have for you. And centralized communications. This helps to make sure that everyone is on the same page and that everyone has all of the information that they need. If your communications aren't centralized, it may mean that you forget to tell someone something important, but it also means that you may spend a large portion of your time just trying to communicate and share information, which isn't very helpful or productive. Okay. So I think before we jump into the next section, which is going to look at sticking to timelines, I'll give everybody about 1 minute. If you've got any questions, please just pop them in the chat. Otherwise, let's take a quick 5-minute break before we jump onto the next section, which will look at sticking to timelines.